Hello, welcome to this lecture series on quantum chemistry. Uh, in this lecture, I am going to continue the particle and a ring problem. Before going to see further, let me just give you a recap whatever we discussed in the last lecture. Okay, so we have taken as a system where a particle is moving on a ring of constant radius. Okay, let us take a particle is moving on this ring. Okay, where this is x-axis and this is y-axis and this is the z-axis. Okay, the particle is restricted to move in xy plane. Right, we have assumed the particle is moving in the xy plane, or we can also say that z equal to 0 for the particle. Okay, z value is 0. Then for this particle, we have derived the expression for wave function and energy by solving the Schrodinger equation. Okay, so the Schrodinger equation is H in spherical polar coordinate. It is denoted as phi, H phi equal to E phi. Okay, and Hamiltonian operator in spherical polar coordinate is minus H bar square by 2I. Instead of mass, you should put in moment of inertia into d square by d v square. This is the Hamiltonian operator, and when we apply this operator on this function, you will get the energy and the same function. We solved this equation and we found the wave, expression for wave function after applying the boundary condition, circular boundary condition. We got this wave function. Wave function depends on the variable phi equal to 1 by square root of 2 pi into e power I ml into phi. Okay, here ml is the quantum number which can take value 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, etc. Okay, and we have also derived the expression for energy. The energy expression is this. Energy depends on the quantum number ml, okay, which is given as h square over 8 pi square I into ml square. This is the expression for energy. Right. Okay, so these are the things we discussed in the last class. Now, let me continue our discussion on energy and wave function. So first, let us start energy. Okay, so energy eigenvalue. Energy eigenvalue, allowed energy eigenvalues for particle moving on a ring of constant radius, and we have also assumed that potential energy on the ring is constant, and for our sake of convenience we took that value as 0. Okay, so here this total energy is actually called rotational kinetic energy of the molecule or a particle. Okay, so what is the rotational kinetic energy? We got this formula. Rotational kinetic energy is given by EML. Energy depends on the quantum number ml equal to h square by 8 pi square I into ml square. Okay, and this quantity is a constant for a given particle. Okay, for a particle of mass m, right, and having a fixed distance r, right, this value is a constant, and this constant is given, it is usually expressed as b. So b into ml square you can write, where b is called rotational constant. B is called rotational constant. Okay, so b into ml square, and here rotational constant in joule unit. Here the unit of rotational constant is in joule. P into ml square is the short form of the rotational kinetic energy of the molecule. Okay, now what is the lowest possible value of energy? You know very well, ml can take value 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, etc. So the lowest possible value of energy is obtained by putting the value of 0 here. If I put this value 0 here, I will get the energy as 0. What is meant by that? Let me show you here. Let me take energy in y-axis. Energy is in y-axis. Now what I'm going to do, what will be the value of energy when ml is 0? If I put ml 0, then this entire quantity becomes 0. That means rotational kinetic energy is 0. That is the lowest possible energy. Okay. If I put ml equal to 0, then the lowest possible energy is also 0. Right? So lowest possible energy through quantum mechanics is 0. And you know very well, 0 point energy. What is the definition for 0 point energy? 0 point energy is nothing but lowest possible energy of the system through quantum mechanics minus lowest possible energy of the system through classical mechanics. Okay, and in the last lecture, I gave the expression for total energy through classical mechanics, that is L square by 2I. Okay, 2 is constant, I is a constant for a given particle. So the only quantity that varies is angular momentum. Classically, the lowest possible angular momentum can be 0. Angular momentum can be 0. So if you put L equals 0, I'll get the lowest possible value of energy as 0. And what is the lowest possible energy through quantum mechanics? It is also 0. So lowest possible value of energy through quantum mechanics is 0, and lowest possible energy through classical mechanics is also 0. Therefore, 0 point energy is 0 for particle on a ring problem. Okay, it's very, very important. Keep this in mind. And why the 0 point energy is 0? It is due to the restriction made by uncertainty principle. Okay, because otherwise yes, the system does not obey the uncertainty principle, right? Yeah. So the lowest possible value of ml is 0. That is, the lowest possible value of energy is 0. What is meant by that? It means the particle is at rest position on the ring. Okay, it may present anywhere on the ring, but it is not moving. It is not moving. That's the meaning. Okay, then if the next value, if I put plus 1 or minus 1, since we have square here, plus 1 square minus 1 square, both will give you 1. 1 into B is B. So the next possible value of energy is B. Okay, remember B is rotational constant in joules. Okay, so for both ml equal to plus 1 and ml equal to minus 1, we obtain the value of energy as B. Right? Since these two states, okay, ml plus 1 corresponds to one state, ml minus 1 corresponds to a different state. These two states, they have same energy, right? Therefore, these two states are called as degenerate states, right? So the first excited energy level is doubly degenerate, right? What about the next level? If you put ml plus 2 or ml minus 2, if I put ml plus 2 or ml minus 2, I'll put plus 2 here, minus 2 here. Plus 2 square is 4, minus 2 square also 4. So I'll get 4b. Whether plus 2 or minus 2, the energy will be 4b. Okay, so again, this level is also doubly degenerate level because it has two states. Okay, the next one, if I put plus 3b, plus 3 or minus 3, I'll get the value as 3 square is 9, so I'll get 9b. Okay, so both plus 3 and minus 3 have same energy. Okay, so except the ground level, all other energy levels are doubly degenerate. That's the point you should keep in mind. Okay, see what I'm saying? Except the ground level, ground energy level, except the ground energy level, all other levels are doubly degenerate. Doubly degenerate. That is the conclusion we made. Okay, on a particle on a particle moving on a ring of constant radius. Okay, yeah. So this is a very, very important one. Keep this in mind. Then one more thing I like to give here. The gap between the first excited energy level and the ground level is B. And the gap between second excited level and the first excited level, 4B minus B, is 3B. And here the gap between third exit level and the second exit level, 9B minus 4B, it is 5B. So what is happening? See, the adjacent level gap, like the gap between adjacent level increases as we move towards higher value of ML. Okay, as the ML value increases, right, the gap also increases. Okay, so the gap between delta E between adjacent level increases as ML increases. Okay, this is another important point. Keep this in mind. Right. So this is regarding energy spectrum of or energy eigenvalues for particle on a ring system. Okay. Now let me move over to the eigenfunctions of Hamiltonian operator. Okay. So now I'll take eigenfunctions of Hamiltonian operator. Okay, it's nothing but the wave function phi. So wave function phi, which is given as 1 by square root of 2 pi, last class we derived it, to e power I ml into phi. Okay, where ml can take value 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, etc. Okay, and you keep this in mind. This wave function is also equally valid 1 by square root of 2 pi e power minus I ml phi. Last lecture I gave this part. This is also equally valid. What is the difference? One direction of rotation is different, that's all. One is applicable for anti-clockwise movement, the other one is applicable for clockwise movement. Okay, yeah. So let us not worry about the direction of motion now. Okay, so I will take only the one particular direction. Right now, here let me apply Euler's theorem. So e power I ml phi can be written as cos ml phi plus I into sin ml into phi. Okay, so you can write this wave function in this manner, in cos and sin manner. Okay, here the real part of the wave function is 1 by square root of 2 pi into cos ml into phi. This is the real part, and the imaginary part of the wave function equal to 1 by square root of 2 pi into sin ml into phi. This is the imaginary part. Okay, so now you know what is the wave function, what will be the real part, and what will be the imaginary part. You can plot the wave function using the real part as well as using imaginary part. Both are important. You have to plot both. But for the discussion purpose, I am going to consider only. Okay, if possible, we'll try both. Right? Yeah. Actually, my focus is on real part. Right? If time permits, we'll do imaginary part also. Yeah. Now, before going to see the plot, I'll give one information here which is very important. The probability density, that is phi modulus of phi square, probability density. What is probability density? Probability density is nothing but phi star into phi. This is probability density. Okay, what is phi? What is phi? Phi is nothing but 1 by square root of 2 pi into e power I ml into phi. And what is phi star? Phi star is 1 by square root of 2 pi into e power, instead of plus I, you put minus I. Minus I ml into phi. Right? So if you multiply 1 by root 2 pi, 1 by root 2 pi become 1 by 2 pi. E power minus IML phi e power plus IML phi. If you multiply, you have to add the power. So you'll get e power 0. E power 0 is 1. So you'll get 1 by 2 pi. What does this indicate? This is very, very important. Okay. Why this is so important? Why? Because see, probability density is a constant. Right? See, it implies that probability density is a constant. Probability density is a constant and it is independent of ML values. So whether ML is plus 1 or minus 1, plus 2 or minus 2, whatever it is, probability density is a constant, okay, everywhere on the ring, right? That is, probability of finding the particle is same everywhere on the ring, at any point on the ring, whether it is ML0 or ML plus 1 or ML plus 2 or whatever it is, because probability density is independent of the ML value. Okay, so that's the first point we should keep in mind. Now let us plot the wave functions. First, I am going to draw the real part. Then, if possible, we'll do imaginary part also. Okay, yeah. Here, okay, let me start with the real part. Plots of the wave functions. Okay, let us start with the plots of wave functions. Okay, so I'm going to plot wave function in the y-axis, and this is phi angle. Okay, first let me start with the ML0. If ML equal to 0, okay, what is the real part equation? The real part equation is this. Real part equation is 1 by root 2 pi cos ML phi, right? If ML is 0, I'll get cos 0. Cos 0 is 1, so I'll get 1 by root 2 pi. What's meant by that? Wave function is a constant. Listen, whether, see, you can even choose this. Okay, even if you put ML0 here, ML0, cos 0 is 1. Okay, if you put ML0, I'll get sin 0. Sin 0 is 0, so the imaginary part will cancel. So you'll be left with only real part, which is 1. So wave function is a constant, okay, when ML equal to 0. When ML equal to 0, wave function phi equal to just 1 by square root of 2 pi. So it is a constant. What is meant by that? It means that the value will appear like this. Let me just show here. So let us take this value as 1 by square root of 2 pi. So whatever may be the angle, right, the value remains same. So the value remains same. It is a constant. Okay. So here I have plotted the wave function. Actually, we should plot in a circular manner. I have just opened the circle. Okay, I plotted in a linear manner. Now, if I fold this, right? If I fold this, I'll get the exact nature of the wave function. Okay, let me do it like this so that it will be comfortable. Give me a second. Yeah, see, this is how the wave function will look like for ML equal to 0 state. For ML equal to 0, the wave function, right? The wave function is constant. The wave function is constant everywhere, right? The wave function is constant everywhere. Okay, so you don't have wave-like property here. Okay, it is just like a circle, right? Because the you know very well when ML is 0, the particle is not moving, right? So the wave function, you don't have wave-like character here. So you just have a circle-like appearance of the wave function, right? Then this is for ML equal to 0. Now let us go for ML equal to plus 1 state. I'll take ML equal to plus 1. Yeah, if I put ML equal to plus 1, what will we get here? See, you know very well, the real part is 1 by root 2 pi cos ML into phi. If you put ML equal to plus 1, I'll get 1 by root 2 pi into cos phi. Okay, so when ML equal to plus 1, the wave function or the real part of the wave function, okay, will have 1 by square root of 2 pi into cos phi. Okay, the real part will have 1 by root 2 pi into cos phi. Now, if I plot this function, okay, how the function will look like. So I'm going to plot real part first. For real part, I'll use this black marker. Okay. So when phi equal to 0, if I put phi equal to 0, see, if I put phi equal to 0, cos 0 is 1. If I put phi equal to pi by 2, cos pi by 2 is 0. Okay, so when phi equal to 0, you will get cos phi, which is cos 0 is 1. So let the value is this. At phi equal to 0, let the value is this. Then at phi equal to pi by 2, the wave function becomes 0. So the wave function goes like this. Right? Then at phi equal to pi. Phi equal to pi means cos pi is minus 1. So the wave function will go here. Then at 3 pi by 2, the wave function cos 3 pi by 2 is 0. So the wave function will go here. And when phi is 2 pi, cos 2 pi is again plus 1. So it will go here. So the wave function will appear like this. And see here I have plotted real part. This is the real part of the wave function. The real part will appear like this for ml equal to plus 1 state. Okay. So if I made it into a circle, the circle will look like this manner. The circle will look like this. So now see, let me start from 0. Actually 0 and 2 pi are one and the same. Okay, so at 0 and 2 pi I have a crust here, I have crust here. Then as you move at pi by 2, the wave function becomes 0. At pi, the wave function becomes minus 1, and at pi 3 by 2 again the wave function is 0. So it appears like this. Now see, here I have a crust. Okay, here I have a crust. If I rotate by 3 pi degree, another crust will appear here. You know very well, the distance between two adjacent crust is what we call as wavelength, right? So the wavelength for this wave, right, is actually 2 pi r, the circumference of the circle, right? So for ml equal to plus 1, the wavelength of this particle wave or matter wave, right, is equal to 2 pi r, circumference of the circle, right? This is for ml equal to plus 1 state. Okay, what about ml equal to minus 1 state? Listen, if you put ml equal to minus 1, then the real part of the wave function equal to 1 by square root of 2 pi into cos, ml value is minus 1, so minus phi you get. And you know very well, cos is an even function, so cos of minus phi is cos phi only. Therefore you will get same wave function plot. Okay, you will get same wave function plot for ml equal to minus 1 also. So this is not only applicable for ml equal to plus 1, this is also applicable for ml equal to minus 1. So for ml plus 1 and ml minus 1, the real part of the wave function, okay, the real part of the wave function appears similar. Okay, it looks similar. Right, so this is a very important information. You should keep in mind. Okay, but suppose if you plot imaginary part, yeah, this is very important. Let me do imaginary part also. Okay, imaginary part of the wave function I am going to plot. Listen, for ml0, real part and imaginary part, okay, actually imaginary part becomes 0, only real part will exist. So you need not worry about imaginary part. But when you come to ml plus 1 or ml minus 1, then the imaginary part also has its significance. So let us take ml equal to plus 1 first. How ml plus 1 plot will look like. Okay, so I am going to plot imaginary, right? Imaginary part of the wave function. So the imaginary part of the wave function, let me write here. First, I'll give you the description. Imaginary part of the wave function is actually 1 by square root of 2 pi into sine ml. This is sine. Okay, sine ml into phi. Right? If I put ml equal to plus 1, right here. If I put ml equal to plus 1, I'll get the wave function, the imaginary part of the wave function will appear like 1 by square root of 2 pi into sine phi. Right? So, what is the plot of sine phi? When phi is 0, sine 0 is 0. When phi is pi by 2, sine pi by 2 is 1. So, the wave function will appear like this here. Wave function at phi is 0, wave function is 0. At phi is pi by 2, sine pi by 2 is 1. So, we get some value here. Then sine pi is 0. Sine 3 pi by 2 is minus 1. Then sine 2 pi is plus 1. Okay, the function will appear like this. Okay, yeah, see here, the one complete crust and one complete trough is nothing but wavelength. So, whether for ml equal to plus 1, okay, for both the real part and imaginary part, the wavelength remains same, which is equal to the circumference of the circle. Okay, this is for ml equal to plus 1. Okay, this plot is for ml equal to plus 1. Now, let me draw for ml equal to minus 1 state. Okay, will it be same or different? Okay, in the, as like a pass function. Okay, let me do it here. Yeah, when ml equal to minus 1, then the imaginary part of the wave function equal to, if you put minus 1 here, I'll get sine of minus p. You know very well sine is an odd function. So, it will give me minus 1 by root 2 pi into sine phi. Okay, so ml plus 1 and ml minus 1 for imaginary part are not same. Okay, therefore, when ml equal to plus 1, the wave function will appear like this. When ml equal to minus 1, you will get the wave function which appear in this manner. Let me draw in a dotted line. So, you will get at pi by 2, sine pi by 2 is 1, but we have minus in front, that would it will go to minus. Then the wave function will appear like this. Okay, yeah, this is how the wave function will appear for ml equal to minus 1. Remember, this is very important for the real part, whether ml plus 1 or minus 1, the wave function is same, because real part we have only cos function. Cos is an even function, therefore whether ml is plus or minus, you will get the same. Okay, you will get the same plot. Whereas for sine is an odd function. So if ml is positive, you will get a wave function. If ml is negative, you will get a different wave function. So they are not linearly, I'm sorry, they are linearly independent. They are linearly independent. So this is the point you should keep in mind. This is regarding imaginary part of the wave function. Okay, so in a similar manner, we can plot for ml equal to plus 2, ml equal to minus 2. Okay, like this you can plot for different functions, right? Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do, what is the general expression for the wavelength of this matter wave, of this function? Okay, wavelength. Lambda is equal to, you know very well, lambda is nothing but h by p, where p is momentum. And we also know that angular momentum is m into v into r, or angular momentum equal to m into v is linear momentum into r, or p equal to L by r, we can write. Okay, p equal to L by r. I'll put this L by r here. So lambda equal to h by L by r, that all will go to the numerator. And remember, angular momentum, I am going to show you, angular momentum can be positive or negative. But you know very well, wavelength cannot be negative. Therefore, you should take only the absolute value of the angular momentum. Okay, so h into r by absolute value of angular momentum, right? Quantum mechanically I am going to show, which is equal to ml into h bar. That's the absolute value of angular momentum. I am going to show that. Okay, in the next point I am going to discuss that. So in the place of absolute value of angular momentum, I'll put this value ml into h bar. So in the numerator we have h into r. In the denominator we have ml into, what is h bar? H bar is nothing but h by 2 pi. So this h cancel, this 2 pi will go to the numerator. So we will get 2 pi r by ml value. And remember, this ml is the absolute value of ml. Okay, because we are taking absolute value of ml. So absolute value of ml, if you put, you will get the wavelength of the particle. Remember, for ml equal to 0, for ml equal to 0, we don't have any wave nature. So you should not apply this formula for ml equal to 0, right? Because when ml is 0, the particle is not moving. So there is no wave nature. Okay. But when ml is greater than 0, you will get wavelength. Okay, if I put ml equal to say +1 or -1, okay, +1 or -1, the wavelength is equal to circumference of the circle. Just now I showed you. If I put ml equal to +2 or -2, I'll get 2. Okay, 2 cancel, so I'll get pi r. Okay, so lambda circumference or wavelength is equal to just pi into r. So in this way, you can find the wavelength of the matter wave, okay, which is existing for a particle moving on a ring of constant radius. Okay, yeah. Now let me show you the angular momentum expressions. How angular momentum exists for this particle. Okay, I have told you already. Rotational motion involves angular momentum. Okay, so what will be the angular momentum? Angular momentum of a particle moving on a ring of constant radius or fixed radius. Okay, yeah, you know very well, angular momentum is a vector which is nothing but r cross p. Okay, moment of linear momentum is nothing but angular momentum, right? Moment of linear momentum is nothing but angular momentum. What is r vector? You can write r vector is a position vector. You can write this as x into I vector plus y into j vector plus z into k vector, where I, j, k are unit vectors. Okay, then the linear momentum vector can be written as p vector equal to x component of the linear momentum I vector plus y component of the linear momentum into j vector plus z component of the linear momentum into k vector. So if I substitute all these values here, I'll get the determinant of that is r cross p is equal to I vector into j vector, I'm sorry, I, j, k. Then coefficients of r vectors are x, y, z. Coefficients of p vector are px, py, and pz. If I multiply this, I'll get I vector into y into pz. That is determinant simplification minus z into py. Right? Then I'll take j minus j into x into pz minus z into px, then plus k vector into x into py minus y into px. Okay, this is the expansion of the total angular momentum operator. Total angular momentum can be written like this. Okay, this is not operator, this is actually a vector. Now, why I have taken this? See, in our problem, the particle is moving on a circle or a ring of radius r. Here, this is the y-axis. This is how we have fixed the axis, right? This is x and this is the plus z axis. And our particle is here. Let us say the particle of mass m, which is here, and the distance between the origin and the particle is r. Okay. Now, see, since this particle is moving in xy plane, z value is 0. Okay, z value is 0. Not only that, the momentum, right? Linear momentum, since particle is moving in xy plane, okay, linear momentum has only x component and y component. Okay, z component become also 0, right? So wherever z is there, you make that value 0, put z equals 0 and put pz also 0. So this part becomes 0 because we have z, this becomes 0 because we have z, then this becomes 0, pz is there, and here this also becomes 0. So these things cancel, and remember actually this is nothing but x component of linear angular momentum, and this is y component of angular momentum, and this is z component of angular momentum. So what does it indicate? It indicates that x component, y component, okay, automatically cancel, only z component remains, right? So for particle moving on a plane, xy plane, right, only the z component of the angular momentum remains. So total angular momentum is nothing but z component of angular momentum. This is what I'm trying to say. Total angular momentum is nothing but equal to the z component of angular momentum. Okay, and you know very well the z component of angular momentum, the operator for z component of angular momentum is minus I h bar into d by d phi. So if I apply this operator on the function, I will get what is called the angular momentum eigenvalue. Okay. So what is the angular momentum eigenvalue? I'll apply this to the wave function phi. Okay. Lz operator is minus I h bar into d by d phi, and phi is 1 by square root of 2 pi into e power I ml into phi. This is general expression. Okay, so 1 by root 2 pi is constant, you can keep it out. If you differentiate this, e power I ml phi on differentiation will give e power I ml phi multiplied by the coefficient of phi. What is that? I into ml. Okay, so let me do it in the next page. So what I have is Lz operator acting on the function phi equal to we have minus I h bar in front, and 1 by square root of 2 pi is constant, you can take it out. If I differentiate, I'll get the coefficient I into ml, then e power I ml phi, that term will remain. Okay, listen, I into I is I square is minus 1 into minus become plus, so we'll get simply ml into h bar, and I'll keep this 1 by root 2 pi e power I ml phi together. What is this? This is nothing but the wave function. This is nothing but the given function. Okay, so this operator acts on the function phi and gives the same function multiplied by some constant. Okay, so this function is an eigenfunction. So listen carefully. This function is an eigenfunction of both Hamiltonian operator and Lz operator. Eigenfunction of Hamiltonian operator as well as Lz operator. Lz operator or total angular momentum operator, both are one and the same here. Okay, so it is an eigenfunction of Hamiltonian as well as the Z component of the angular momentum operator, right? And what is the eigenvalue? Eigenvalue is ml into h bar, and this gives you the angular momentum for the particle moving on a ring of constant radius r. Okay, and remember ml can take value 0, plus 1, minus 1, plus 2, minus 2, etc. If ml is 0, angular momentum is 0. See, if ml is 0, angular momentum is 0. What is meant by that? The particle is not moving. So we get same result as like the classical particle. But the difference is classically all value of angular momentums are allowed. But quantum mechanically ml can take values 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, etc. Okay, only these values are allowed. You cannot take 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and all. Okay, whereas those values are also allowed in classical mechanics. In quantum mechanics, only these values are allowed. Therefore, angular momentum is also quantized. Okay, angular momentum is also quantized. That's a very, very important point. You should note. Okay, then Suppose if I put ml equal to say +1, what will I get? I'll get Lz. See, this is eigenvalue equal to h bar. If I put ml equal to -1, I'll get eigenvalue equal to minus h bar. What does these values indicate? Right? Listen, L is at h bar indicates that suppose if particle is moving on a ring, then plus h bar indicates that angular momentum operator or an angular momentum vector, okay, the angular momentum vector should be present in the upward direction, okay, because it is positive value, right? So positive value of the angular momentum into the unit vector k, okay. It looks like, because you know very well, angular momentum is a vector quantity, vector has a direction, right? If the vector appears upward, it means, you know very well, you should apply the right hand rule, right? According to which, if the thumb finger indicate the direction of the angular momentum, if angular momentum is upward, the particle is supposed to move in the anti-clockwise direction, okay? So the particle is supposed to move in the anti-clockwise direction. Right. Similarly, if I put ml equal to -1, I'll get Lz equal to minus h bar. What does this indicate? It indicates that angular momentum, okay, should be facing below the plane of the ring. Okay. So where L vector equal to minus h bar into k. Right. And here we should apply the right hand rule. Okay. So now the angular momentum is appearing in the downward direction. Let me show like this. Yeah, downward direction, and the direction of the direction of the moment of the particle should be clockwise. Okay, so we can explain the angular momentum based on these operators. Okay, and remember, these angular momentums are quantized. They take only quantized value, right? Like energy. Okay, energy also quantized, right? So these are all the conclusions we made on a particle on a ring system. Okay, yeah, I stop here. We'll continue particle on a sphere by next lecture onwards. Okay, thank you for listening.